Hi, I promised more frequent videos before the surgery, so here I am just a little over a week later. So thing number one, I cry at almost everything, happy or sad, so that's just preparation for what may be coming in the next couple of weeks. Issue number two, I wanted to say thank you for the incredible outpouring of amazing binge shows. I have such a long list that I don't even think I'll be able to get through them all in the time that I have at home. And the next thing I wanted to say is thank you in particular to my friend Alessandra, who has been organizing behind the scenes a meal train and donations for me and my family. And that's the first tearjerker. I cannot even believe how broad and thoughtful my network is out there. I am so grateful to all of you. And I know that not everybody can do something, but that doesn't even matter because so many people have just sent good thoughts, and that's great. So here's what's been happening the last week. So right after I made the last video, I spent a few sleepless nights, and I couldn't figure out, is it daylight savings time? What is it? Yes, it was partially daylight saving time, but it was also, I had this big looming fear that had not really reached my brain before. And I know it's kind of silly, and the pragmatist in me realizes that that's not the case, but I couldn't stop thinking about what happens to my lifespan when I give away a kidney. And my mom would say, well, that's not as important as the fact that you're giving life to another person, which is true. But it still was really bugging me. I'm like, what does it change? How does it change? How will I ever know? If I live until I'm 83, will I be like, well, I could have lived till 86. So that was keeping me awake. I ended up getting to sleep about 4 days later. And that's the kind of thing that when you're donating a kidney, it's really easy to forget that you are a human and that things are happening to you as well, because you think so much about the person who's getting your kidney. And that's where my thoughts really have been, and I think rightly so. But I am allowing myself time to have feelings. I'm allowing myself time to be worried, to be scared, and to acknowledge the fact that I do have some feelings that are actually about myself. So I'm just putting that out there. You can hate me, I don't care. That's how I feel. But then I also started thinking about all of the people who are going to be awake while I'm not. So my brother and I are going to be asleep at the same time, and then my mother, who will have 2 children on an operating table at the same time, 2 out of 4. That's a lot. That's 50% of her children. My daughter, for whom I am her touchstone, I am her constant. Yes, she's a dramatic teenager, but she also has a lot of big feelings, and she was really freaking out about them. So just to follow up from the last time we talked, where I said we were going to ask if she could spend the night in the hospital with me after the surgery. And at first the social worker said, yes, of course, people do it all the time. And then the next day, and she was very excited and comforted by that idea. And then the next day he said, well, actually, no, it's not possible because she's under 18, which of course you can imagine was very disappointing to her. And she had a very upsetting discourse, that's a big word, discourse, with my mom, who was basically saying the same thing as I was, which is, this thing has happened. We can't control the fact that you can't sleep in the room, and we have to go to another plan, and this is bigger than you, but in a way that was not making Daphne feel very good about herself. So it was kind of a disaster, to say the least. So I realized that night, I'm talking to her about it, and I said, are you afraid I'm gonna die? And she said, yes, which is a really real fear. Of course, I'm not gonna die, but there's always that tiny percentage with anesthesia, what have you. But I think to a 14-year-old, that's a really real fear, that the person you rely on the most in the world in a matter of hours could get away. And she wanted to, she kept saying, what if something were to happen to you? I want to be able to help. And I said, Daphne, I'm in an operating room with medical professionals. If they can't save me, nobody can. So we kind of got over that hump. And now I've gotten to the point where she's going to have a person, thank you to my best friend Sarah, who she can be with. My mom is going to have a person to distract her. So my sister and my sister-in-law, whose husband, my brother, is having this surgery, are also going to be at the hospital, as is my other brother. So there will be lots of people supporting each other. So, and making jokes, I hope. So hopefully we have everything lined up and everybody is being cared for. And now I am worrying a little bit less because it was really stressing me out. You know, I wanted my child to be taken care of, but I didn't want my mother to be responsible for taking care of her because my mother was going to have fears of her own and she needed somebody to take care of her. This whole triangulation of care. So that's where we are. We have our pre-op appointment on the 1st of April where we will find out all sorts of things like what kind of anesthesia we're going to have. I want to know how big my incision is going to be. If you have any particular questions, feel free to send them along. I will add them to the list. I have everything from like how cold is it going to be in the operating room to how long till I wake up after the surgery. That's actually Daphne's question. She's worried about that. So I have a lot of questions, which all of you who need an advocate, do this thing. Anytime you go to the doctor, have any procedure of any kind, bring your list of questions. Not enough people do that. All right, I will talk to you hopefully next week and we'll be 7 days closer.